everyone, and welcome to another SEJ Marketing Think Tank webinar. I'm actually getting to a point where I can say that without pause now. Today, we will be joined by Josh Hardwick, who is the head of content at Ahrefs, and he's going to talk about some simple ways to build links, which I think everybody here and everybody in SEO is still really excited about learning and always looking to kind of improve. So really excited to have this conversation today, and excited to kind of have this presentation for you guys. My name is Brent Satoris. I will be moderating today, and I'm going to let Josh tell a little bit about himself. So if you want to give a little introduction about yourself, Josh, and then I'll do some housekeeping points afterwards.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So just a little bit about me. My name's Joshua Hardwick. Obviously, I'm the head of content at Ahrefs, which basically just means that I write a lot of the blog posts and handle all that kind of stuff. And I've been involved in SEO for around 8 or 9 years, since I was about 18 or 19. I'm currently 26. So yeah.
Super young still. But that's quite a bit of time to be an SEO, and quite a bit of time to be knowledgeable in the space, and especially if you're doing the content creation regularly. I think that's super important for being like in the weeds and actually knowing what works and what doesn't work. So housekeeping points for everyone real quick. If during the webinar you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, in GoToWebinar there is a question box in the bottom, and you are welcome to enter your questions there, and we will do our best to answer them or to adjust. Additionally, that is where we will get our questions for Q&A, which will come at the end, so please use that box. We will have a number of polls throughout the webinar, in which case we will pause and ask a question, ask a poll, and that's your opportunity to participate, get involved, so forth, and we ask everybody to just take a moment to participate. Any resources, as we're talking through the presentation, we will do our best to link them in the chat as well. So if we missed something, or if you wanted to ask that question, what tool was he talking about, or what resource was he talking about, then we will make sure to get that linked in there. After the presentation, after the entire webinar, there is going to be a 5-minute or less survey. It's a really quick survey. It doesn't take but a couple minutes, but it's super helpful for us. It's helpful for us. It's helpful for Josh. It gives us a lot of good information to kind of adjust how these presentations go in the future. So please take a moment to fill that out. Last but not least, this entire presentation, the recording, everything will be recapped and put into a post on Search Engine Journal within the next day or two, so you can check for it there and share it and do whatever you want with it. So without any further delay, let's dive into the webinar. Josh, go ahead.
Okay. So today's webinar, what I'm going to do basically is just talk about 3 simple ways to build links for your business. So just to kick off, why are links important? So I'm sure that most of you kind of have got a general idea of this, but links are one of the primary Google ranking factors. So we know this because a lot of people have studied this, including ourselves at Ahrefs. You can see here a graph which basically is a study of 920 million web pages. And you can see that there's a clear correlation between the amount of referring domains to these web pages and the amount of organic search traffic that they actually get. So basically, the more referring domains, backlinks pointing to these pages, the more traffic from Google they actually get. So I'll just hand back to Brent for just a quick poll, and then I'll get stuck in with the tactics.
All right, let's pull up the first poll, and I'll go ahead and launch it for everybody to see. What percentage of web pages have backlinks pointing to them? Select one of those. This is kind of one of those fun trivia ones. All right, let's see who's really knowledgeable or who's a good guesser. So A, 72.19%, B, 44.76%, or C, 9.12%. Again, what percentage of web pages have backlinks pointing to them? We're going to let a couple more votes come in. We got about 75% voted, and we are going to see who's right. All right, let me go ahead and close the poll, and we'll share the results. And A had 16%. Most people said C, 9%. That's what I would have guessed too. I just would figure that the majority of websites probably have very few links pointing to them. So very interesting. I'll let you go back to us.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's get to the tactics. So 3 link building tactics. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is guest blogging. So I'm sure that a lot of you are familiar with guest blogging, but just in case you aren't, it's where you write a guest article for another website. So rather than post on your own website, you're writing for a different website. And just to show an example of that, here's a guest post that I did a few years ago for a website called Convince and Convert. And you can see on the left-hand side there, there's an author bio box, as it's commonly called. And within that box, there's a link to my website and a couple of social profiles and things like that. So just 2 points I want to make quickly about this. The link that you see there, a lot of them are sometimes no followed links, as you may be aware. That one's actually a followed link. And the thing with guest posts is they're not always in the author bio link, in the author bio box, sorry. They're sometimes within the content itself, sometimes contextual links like this you can kind of insert within guest posts, which is, again, what makes it such a good link building strategy and still a viable link building strategy in 2018. So what's the process for guest posting? Well, if you've ever done this before, you're probably familiar with this. Basically, you find a list of websites that you might want to guest post for. You come up with some topics for posts, reach out and pitch those ideas to the people that are responsible for those websites, and eventually you write your post and get published. So I'm just going to go through these steps one by one and walk you through how I recommend that you actually do this. And it's not the same as how a lot of people do it. So basically, the way most people do it and the way most people find these websites for which to pitch is by searching for these kind of operators within Google. So, you'll type something related to your niche in there, along with an operator like Untitled Right for Us, and then you get these kind of results where websites are actually asking for people to contribute to their websites. They set up these Right for Us pages for that, and there are a lot of different search operators that you can use to do that. But the problem with this is, well, there are a lot of problems with this. So the first is that it's extremely time consuming, because basically what you do is you run through all of these search operators and you scrape them. There's a lot of duplicates in there, so you've got to put them in a spreadsheet and dedupe and all this kind of stuff, which takes a crazy amount of time most of the time. Another problem is that everyone's reaching out to these same sites. You type fitness Untitled Right for Us into Google, 1 million people are doing that all the time. So these sites are inundated with guest post requests, and quite frankly, a lot of them are sick of them, especially sick of poor requests. And again, a lot of the sites that set these pages up tend to be kind of low quality and spammy, not because they've set the pages up, but more that they're accepting these guest posts and they kind of get lenient and start accepting kind of crappy posts every now and again. So the way to fix that is not to chase the websites that explicitly state they accept guest posts, and instead reach out to sites that talk about relevant topics, so that talk about the topics that you want to guest post about, that you want to write about. It doesn't really matter whether they have a Right for Us page or not, because if you think about it, any website that cares about the audience and cares about the content is going to accept a guest post if you offer them something relevant and something high quality. They're not going to say no to free high quality content. So how do you find these pages? Well, the easiest way to do that is to use a tool like Ahrefs Content Explorer. So basically, this is just a tool. There's probably other tools out there that do something similar, but you basically type in a keyword, something related to your niche, and it's going to kick back all of the web pages on the internet that actually contain those phrases. So Content Explorer in particular searches over 1 billion web pages for mentions of any word or phrase that you put in there. So you can see that if I type link building in there, I get 120,000 results. So that's 120,000 web pages that contain the phrase link building on that page. So basically, we know that those web pages are about link building. So any websites those web pages come from must talk about those kinds of things, and are probably good prospects to which to actually reach out to and pitch. So the only issue with this is that what we're actually getting from tools like Content Explorer are web pages rather than websites. So what we actually want is websites, because we don't want to reach out to the same site over and over again, because that's just going to look spammy and it's a waste of time. So within Content Explorer, there's a checkbox in there, the one article per domain checkbox. So what that does is it just refines those results so that instead of seeing web pages, you still see web pages, but you only see one web page from each domain. So say there's 2 posts about link building on the same website, you're only going to see that website pop up in the results once. And you can see straight away we're down from 120,000 results to 41,000. So roughly a third of the results just by ticking that checkbox. But obviously 41,000 websites is a lot to reach out to, and no one's really got time to reach out to that many websites. So what you can do, again, in Content Explorer, you can just use some of the filters. So, for example, you can filter for English-speaking websites, English web pages rather, so that you're not reaching out to, say, German web pages, or you can filter for whichever language you need. You can add a domain rating filter, so this is kind of useful if you don't want to go for the really high-end websites, you don't want to go for the really low-end websites. You can set a domain rating filter for the kind of website that you're comfortable writing for. And you can see that just by adding those two filters, which takes like a couple of seconds, we're down to like 5,500 results, which is a perfectly manageable number. So what we've got already are websites that we know talk about our topic, and we've got like thousands of them that are all relevant and that we might want to reach out to. So the next part of the process is to come up with guest post topic ideas. So usually people just kind of do this off the top of their head. They come up with something that they know or something that they want to talk about. That's fine if you're just doing 5 or 10 guest posts and leaving it at that. But to come up with consistently good ideas just over time and for maybe like 50 or 100 guest posts over the course of a few months is kind of difficult. So a few techniques that you can use to kind of come up with unlimited guest post ideas fairly quickly. So all of these techniques they go together, and you'll see how they go together at the end. So the first one is called the Robin Hood technique. So the basic idea here is to take ideas from the rich, give them to the poor. So the translation of that is take inspiration from a popular article on a big website and, as I say, take inspiration from that and figure out something that you can write about for other websites based on that article. So back in Content Explorer just here, one of the things that you can do is the same thing as before. So you type a topic into Content Explorer to find content related to that topic. But using these filters again, you can kind of filter for relevant web pages. So English-speaking results again. Only this time what we're going to do is add a domain rating filter. So we're going to look for really high-end domains. So websites that are really big and authoritative. So 60 plus, 60 to 100 domain rating. And we're also going to look for content with a large, lengthy content. So a lot of words. Now that's completely optional. Not every great article is really long, but it just helps to filter that down. So as you can see there, we've got 242 results. And in this particular instance, because we searched for link building, one of those results is actually a post that's on the Ahrefs blog, which is like 7,500 words long. And it's a very popular article that you can see from the metrics there. So we've got like hundreds and thousands of shares. It's got a ton of referring domains. So this is a popular article that we know people like this topic. They like this article. They like what this article's got to say. And because it's very long, we can actually take inspiration from that in a very particular way. So that brings me on to this splintering technique. So the basic idea behind this is to splinter the big article into subtopics. So again, with this particular article that we found in Content Explorer, it's actually divided into a lot of chapters. It's 7,500 words long, so that's why it needed dividing into such chunking up into these kind of sections. And basically what you can do is take each section of this big article that you found related to the topic that you want to guest post about, and each of those chapters can become a good standalone topic for a guest post. So just to give a few examples from this one, chapter 2 we had in that article essential link building skills. So from that you could just do a guest post entitled 5 essential link building skills in 2018. Chapter 4 is about link building strategies. So again, convert that into a guest post idea, a certain amount of link building strategies that work or something to that effect. And again, you can do the same for all of these different subsections. And even if the web page that you happen to find isn't divided into chapters, if it's a long article, you can bet that it talks about a lot of different things. So you can just chunk it up in that way. So that leads me on to the next one, which is the perspective technique. So at this stage, we've looked for an article, found a big one, splintered it up. So we've got a few different topic ideas already, as I just showed you. So what you can then do is use this perspective technique to generate even more topics. So the idea here is to create multiple versions of the same post, but just changing the perspective of the post slightly. So just to show an example, remember in the previous splintering technique, we came up with the future of link building for startups idea, which was taken from the big post. So you can then just take that guest idea that you've already got and just change the perspective to a slightly different audience. So you can see there we've got local businesses, non-profits, small business sites. So basically what we then do is come up, these are all standalone articles. So we've got the future of link building for non-profits, future of link building for small businesses, and so on and so forth. So you can see that from that one idea, we get a lot of different ideas that we can pitch to multiple sites. So basically the ultimate workflow is to put all of this together. So start off with the Robin Hood technique, find a post, a really big post that's popular, that talks about the topic that you're interested in, splinter that up into multiple topics. So you might get 5 or 10 posts just from doing that alone, 5 or 10 guest post ideas rather, and then you can take each one of those ideas and splinter it down even further. So from each post that you find, which Content Explorer gave us like 200 posts, you can probably generate like 5 or 20 different ideas, which you can then pitch to websites. So that brings me smoothly on to this one, which is actually pitching the ideas that you've got, which is the next logical step. So pretty straightforward, you've got your ideas, but just 2 hacks that I want to talk about quickly. The first one is to pitch more blogs than you can possibly handle. So I've been doing like guest posting for quite a long time now, and it's probably, if you're familiar with all this kind of stuff, it's probably the technique that you kind of start out with. I remember when I started out with this, I always make the mistake of just reaching out to like 2 or 3 blogs and hoping that they'd get back to me. And if you've done this, you'll know that a lot of the time they don't. So the best idea that you can do here is to reach out to many more blogs than you can possibly actually write guest posts for. So if you've got the capacity, whether it's you or a team of writers, to write for say 20 blogs a month, reach out to like 100 every month, because only a certain percentage of those are going to actually respond. And obviously, it's always better to have too many opportunities than too few, because then you can pick and choose. You can actually meet the quota that you want to meet and all that kind of stuff. So the other hack is to pitch the same topic to many different websites. So this, again, I think this is something that a lot of people don't do, but you can actually take all of those guest post ideas that you just came up with, say if you've got 20 of them, for example, and you can pitch those 20 guest post ideas to a lot of different websites. So maybe you can send the 20 posts to 100 websites, so each post gets pitched 5 times. So that saves you come up with a ton of topic ideas. And again, leading into what I just said a minute ago, not all of these sites are going to respond. So the chance of actually one site wanting the same post, a lot of sites wanting the same post is actually quite low. You're probably not going to get, if you pitch a post to 5 websites, it's doubtful that all of those are going to respond. And even if they do, what you can do is just pick and choose the best one that you want, send a different idea to the rest of them. And again, much more logical way of doing things. So obviously, when you go through that entire process, what's going to happen is some people are going to get back to you and they're going to say, yes, we want a guest post from you. We want to see your idea. So the final stage of the process is, in my opinion, though, is simple, which is to write your post and actually get published. So like I say, this is the easy part. The blogger said yes, you just need to write the post. So a few potential issues that I'll just quickly and briefly skim over. Bloggers sometimes strip the links from your post. If you're including contextual links within your post, bloggers do sometimes strip those out for a myriad of reasons. Sometimes they just, they don't like links in there for some reason. Doesn't happen as often as a lot of people make out on these SEO blogs, but if it does happen, usually it's best to just cut your losses and move on. Delayed publishing, that's quite a common one, in my opinion. You send a guest post, and maybe it's a week or 2 before they even look at it or get back to you, or they just stop replying or something like that. Again, just go back to what I said before and just pitch that post to another website. Non-response, again, you can deal with those the same way. Just pitch to a different website and don't worry about it too much. Again, those issues aren't that common, in my opinion, at least from my experience. There is a full post about this guest blogging on the Ahrefs blog, which goes into a lot more detail about everything that I've covered so far. So that's guest blogging. So again, I'll just hand over to Brent for a quick poll before I move on to the next tactic.
Awesome. And just real quick before we read this poll, do you know what the answer was to the first poll? We had
the answer to the first one. This is the thing, I'm remembering these from memory now, so I've got to write them down. But I'm pretty sure that it's C. So it was the one that most people voted for.
So C was 9% essentially. So again, it was 72%, 44%, or 9%, and the answer was C, 9%, which 52% of people had had said that was what they wanted anyway. So second and last poll, launching now. What's your biggest challenge with link building? A, no idea where to start. B, not enough time to do the outreach. Or C, poor response to outreach emails. Again, for everyone who's listening, you're out there doing link building. What is the biggest challenge you're honestly dealing with? Is it just you don't even know where to start, or you just don't have enough time to do this, or you're just not getting good results? And I will, again, leave that up for a little bit to see if we can get a couple votes. We're at about 70% now, and we'll give it a couple more minutes. Not minutes, seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close it out and show the results. So results are, most people just don't have enough time, and that's where I always had my biggest problem, is I just don't have enough time or interest to really do it. So I will hide that and let you continue on.
Yep, okay. Okay, yeah. So the next technique that I want to talk about is broken link building. So again, quite a common technique, something that's been around for quite a while. The basic idea, you find a broken link, a dead link on some web page that's related to your industry or your niche. You recreate that dead piece of content, so make something similar, something better, and then you reach out to anyone linking to that dead resource, let them know about that, and suggest your recreated and better version as a replacement for that link. So, for example, just to show you what a broken link looks like, this one that I found on neilpatel.com links to backlinko. The post doesn't exist, so you get this 404 error page. So basically, a broken link, people don't want them on the websites because they're just bad for user experience. No one wants to click a broken link, and they're just a telltale sign of a web page that doesn't get updated very much. So this is what the web page used to look like on backlinko before it died and disappeared to wherever it went. It used to be a post about protecting your site against Google penalties. So if you found that link, for example, if that was a link that you found, the next step would be to recreate that content. So just to go back one step, that site just there is the Wayback Machine. So if you just paste the URL of the broken link into that, it'll show you what used to be there. So you can reach that on the archive.org/web. So once you've done that and you know what the link used to be, you can recreate that content. If it's relevant, recreate it, put it on your website, and then ask the person that was linking to that page to replace the dead link with your working link. So you can take this idea a little bit further. That's like the common broken link building tactic, but you can go further with this because we know that one person links to this broken link resource because we actually found this link on, in this instance, neilpatel.com. So Neil Patel links to this. But the thing is, if one person's linking to something, then chances are that other people are also linking to that because it must have been a good resource in the first place to have someone like Neil Patel link to it. It must have had some merit and some value. So chances are other people are linking to it too. So you can find this out in a tool like Ahrefs Site Explorer. So basically, this is just a backlink checking tool. So if you paste the broken link, the broken URL into a tool like this, like Ahrefs Site Explorer, it's basically going to tell you how many backlinks it has and how many referring domains it has. So you can see this in this instance, there are 34 referring domains pointing to this page, which basically just means that 34 unique websites link to the broken link. So the translation of that is that there are 34 link opportunities there. If you were to recreate that page on your website, you could reach out to 34 people potentially, tell them about their broken link, which we know they have, and suggest yours as a replacement. So the big question that we come to, obviously the tactic makes sense, you can see how it works, but how do you actually find these relevant broken links in the first place? So there are a couple of ways to do this. The first one is to look for dead pages on competing websites. So again, if you just grab a competing website, so for us this might be backlinko.com. You know, backlinko is a competitor to the Ahrefs blog in a sense. So if we paste that into Ahrefs Site Explorer and we select the domain option, what this is going to show us, if we go to the Best Buy Links report, which you can see on the left-hand sidebar in the tool, if we then filter for 404 not found pages, what this actually shows us is something like this. So it shows us all of the dead pages on backlinko.com, and it also shows us how many referring domains point to each of those pages. So you can see there, that's exactly how I found the broken link that I showed you before. You can see it's the top one on the list. You can sort this column by referring domains so that the best pages rise to the top as well. So you can see that 34 people linking to that page, and there are a few other pages on backlinko that also have referring domains and backlinks pointing to them that are just dead pages. So all of those pages are actually broken link building opportunities. If you add all of the ones that I just showed you there up, there's probably like 30 or 40 websites that we could reach out to and potentially build links should we have similar content on our website. So that's quite a tame example of that tactic in action, actually. I've done this with quite a few websites, and some of them just give you an absolute goldmine of opportunities. So just to show you an example, I've blurred out the domain for obvious kind of reasons, but this is a website that I pasted in, and this is one of the top broken pages on that website. You can see that 938 people are actually linking to that dead page. So the translation of that is that 938 link building opportunities. If you can recreate a piece of content similar to what that page used to be, then you can reach out to those 900 plus people. If 10 or 20% of those convert, then you've got 100, 200 backlinks. So again, if you find a promising opportunity, if you find one of those in Ahrefs Site Explorer, if you actually click the little arrow that you can see there, the like green arrow next to the URL, it'll bring up this like pop-up, and usually there's an archive.org link there, so you can actually go and check out what these pages used to be right from Site Explorer. So rinse and repeat this process for as many competitors as you like. Just keep pasting competing domains in there and looking at the dead, broken pages. And you'll find like an endless stream of opportunities for that one. So another way that you can find these is quite similar, but just a little bit different. So basically, still using those competing domains, what we're going to do this time is instead look for dead, broken out links on those competing sites. So this time, what we're going to do in Site Explorer again, you paste that domain in there. This time, go to the broken outgoing links report, which you can see there under the outgoing links kind of subheading. And what this will actually show you is all of the broken pages that the site is linking to. So rather than the dead pages on the site, it's the external pages that it's linking to. So again, you can find some good opportunities here. There's an opportunity there, 404 not found page that backlinker is linking to. So that page, just a dead page that no longer works. So the trick here, export the report, which basically just puts it into a CSV, copy and paste all of those URLs, and go to a tool called Batch Analysis Tool, another Ahrefs tool. So basically just paste them in, choose the URL option there, and just click Analyze. And what you're going to get there rather, is a similar kind of report to what we saw in the previous strategy, which shows you all of those pages that you pasted in, all of those pages that you know to be dead links, and you can again sort by the number of referring domains to each of those pages. So if you do that, you can see a lot of these pages, quite a few people are linking to them even though they're dead. So just to highlight one opportunity there, just one from bigcommerce.com, you can see it's about optimizing your online store or something like that. 45 people are linking to that, and if you go to that page, it is, as we expect, a dead page. So there you go, it's like 45 link building opportunities there. If you were to just recreate a page similar to that, or something better to that, or something semi-related to that even. So yeah, again, once you find a good opportunity, recreate the dead content, and then reach out to anyone that links to that dead resource and tell them about the dead resource, and just suggest your recreated version as an alternative replacement link on their website. So just to quickly go over how to do that, if you go to the backlinks report in Site Explorer or any tool like this, and you paste the URL of the dead page in there, you'll see exactly who links to that, and you'll see like every single page and every single anchor text and all that kind of stuff. So you can just work through that and reach out to those people. So the final strategy that I want to talk about is converting unlinked mentions to links. So this is what an unlinked mention looks like. So you can see there that Ahrefs is featured on this website, bloggingtips.com, and yeah, so you can see that we're featured there, but we're not linked to. So Ahrefs is mentioned but not linked to, and this happens quite a lot actually. It happens more often than you might think for most brands. So just to show you another example, Ahrefs Content Explorer mentioned on this website, but again, no link. It's just a text link, a text mention there. Another one, Tim Solo there mentioned, again with Ahrefs, no links in there whatsoever. So these are all unlinked mentions. So the opportunity here is to convert these unlinked mentions into links. Basically, when you get an unlinked mention, we know a few things about those unlinked mentions. So we know that the person that actually mentioned you is clearly familiar with your brand. So you're kind of already halfway towards earning that link. If you can just give them the final push and convince them to link to you, you can usually convert that to a link. So the way to do this, obviously, find unlinked mentions of your brand, then you reach out to the people that have mentioned you and ask them to make the brand name clickable or something like that, which is basically non-SEO kind of code for linking to your website. So again, the big question is, how do you actually find these unlinked mentions in the first place? You know, how do you find the mentions of your brand that don't actually link to your website? So a couple of ways to do this that I want to talk about. The first one, again, use Ahrefs Content Explorer. Just to refresh your memory on what this tool actually does, searches over a billion web pages. You can type anything in there, and it's like a mini search engine essentially. So you type in link building, for example, and it's going to show you every web page that mentions link building. So we did this before, and obviously we found 122,000 pages that kind of had link building in them. But what you can actually do to tie it back to this strategy is just type in your brand name. So what it's going to do then is show you all of the web pages that actually mention your brand name. So if I type in Ahrefs, it shows me 17,000 plus web pages that mention Ahrefs, so mention our brand. So the issue that we've got at this stage is that we don't know which of these 17,000 web pages are brand. We don't know how many of those actually contain unlinked mentions. You know, which ones actually link to us and which ones don't. Content Explorer doesn't actually tell us that straight off the bat. But what we can actually do is just tick the highlight unlinked domains feature, well, use the highlight unlinked domains feature rather. So basically just type in the website that you want to check for links to, and what it'll actually do is literally highlight any of the websites that have never linked to you before in the results. So you can see a quick example of that here. Basically, this is just the result of searching for Ahrefs and typing in the ahrefs.com under the highlight unlinked domains. So basically, you can see that cbinsights.com mentions, as you can see it right there, mentions Ahrefs, but it's highlighted, which means that that website has never linked to us. So those two facts point to the fact that this web page must be an unlinked mention. So again, a lot of results kind of pop up if you're a medium or medium to high level brand. You're going to get a lot of results by using this method. So what you can actually do again is just use the inbuilt filters in Content Explorer. Filter for the language that you want, filter for a certain domain rating. I usually just add a 30+ domain rating just to filter out any of the kind of low end websites, and then you can kind of add a organic traffic filter as well, which is completely optional. I usually just add a low organic traffic filter just to filter out any web pages that don't actually get any traffic, just to narrow down those results so that we're actually focusing on the best web pages to reach out to. So once you've done this, once you've added the filters that you want and found the web pages that you want rather, export only the unlinked pages. So basically just go to the export button, click full export, and then you want to tick this only highlighted unlinked domains checkbox. So what that does is it just exports only those highlighted domains. So what you end up with is a spreadsheet like this, which basically just contains pages that mention your brand but don't link to you. So a spreadsheet full of unlinked mentions effectively. So all you then need to do is to work your way through that spreadsheet. You've already filtered that in Content Explorer, so you know that most of those web pages and websites you don't actually want to pursue a link from. And then you want to just go after any worthwhile opportunities by, again, reaching out to the site owners and just saying something like, can you make this brand name clickable, or can you, make it so that people can find our website a bit more easily, something like that, something a bit non-SEO-y, something so that they don't just suspect you're after, just a link and nothing else, and that you don't appreciate the mention in the first place. So the second way to do this, which is something that I've never really seen anyone talk about, is to look for links to domain misspellings. So basically, just showing an example of this, there's a linked mention of Ahrefs in this article. So this is just a screenshot from an article with what seemingly appears to be a linked mention of Ahrefs. So the problem with this one is that if you dig into the code, what you find is this. So you see that they've actually linked to the wrong website. So instead of linking to Ahrefs, they've linked to Ahrefs, which is just a typo basically, but it results in this effectively being an unlinked mention. So how do you actually find these mistakes? What method can you use to actually find these at scale? So the method that I kind of use is just to enter a misspelled version of your domain into a tool like Ahrefs Site Explorer. So you can see there that if we put ahrefs.com in, what it shows us is there are actually 25 backlinks to ahrefs.com. So basically, if people are linking to ahrefs.com, I doubt ahrefs.com is a real website, so they're probably meant to link to Ahrefs. So basically, a good way to find the unlinked mentions, but the issue with this is that doing this for all the possible misspellings of your domain is going to be pretty time consuming and pretty boring as well. So the way to speed this up is to use a domain typo generator. So you can find one of these. The slide's a bit messed up there at the bottom, but that's the website there is domaincheckplugin.com/typo. So if you just go to that website, you type in your domain without the .com or whatever TLD you're using, and you just click generate typos, what it'll do is just generate every single typo it can think of for that website. So as you can see there, plenty for ahrefs.com. They're just a few of the ones that it kicks back. So then what you need to do is just copy and paste all of those domain misspellings and throw them into Ahrefs batch analysis tool. So this allows you to check up to 200 web pages or websites at a time. Paste them in there. This time select the domain target mode rather than the URL target mode that we used before. So we want to check the whole website here. And then just click analyze. And again, you get this same kind of report as you saw before, where all of those websites are there, and you can sort them by the most referring domains. So you can see there that ahrefs.com, 319 different websites linking to that. Ahrefs.com, 91, and basically all of these domains, all of these misspelled domains have got a lot of links pointing to them. So for any of the domains that have got backlinks, go ahead and check the backlinks report and check whether any of those links were actually intended for your website, whether they're actually mistakes or not. So just to show that this really does happen again, this is the screenshot of the backlinks report in Site Explorer, and you can see that this website, this web page rather, about building backlinks, clearly meant to link to Ahrefs. They link to ahrefs.com. It's a misspelled link. It's an unlinked mention, effectively. So just an important point that I will make is that not all of these links are going to fit the bill. Sometimes people will mean to link to these kind of will mean to link to these misspelled versions of your domain. You know, some websites that sound like your website may just be completely different websites in their own right. So you need to check through that backlinks report for each of those sites, and just make sure that you're only pursuing the ones that are actually intended for you. So again, there's a full post about this, which goes into like I'm pretty sure there's like 3 or 4 different more techniques for finding these unlinked mentions on the Ahrefs blog. So if you're interested in that tactic, give that a read, and I'm sure that you'll find quite a lot of stuff there. So I'll just hand that over to Brent now, and I'm sure we'll find out the results to the second poll.
Gotta say, I love this presentation. I mean, I think that, you know, look, I mean, we listened to so many link building presentations in general as SEOs, and I think that it's really I think it's really impressive to look at some of the different variations of tactics. We have a number of questions already rolling in, so I want to dive right into the Q&A, but just wanted to say that you know, it's impressive to come across tactics that I hadn't seen before, and there's 2 tactics in here that I had never thought about, like really going after misspellings and, you know, unlinked mentions and stuff, those in itself. And I do have one question before we dive into Q&A. Ahrefs, you know, is obviously a very, very well-known tool for being able to, you know, look at a lot of this information. But do you guys actually provide any kind of services like link building services, or are you just doing link building for yourself, and that's where your experience is coming from?
It's just come from previous experience doing it for 1 or 2 of my own sites and a few client sites. So we at Ahrefs don't provide any kind of services. We just provide the tools for kind of allowing people to do this on themselves, or allowing agencies and things like that to do their link building.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, so let me dive in. A number of different questions. This one comes up a lot, I think. Okay. And I pitch my guest posts, and people start asking for payment. They want to be paid for the posts. You know, this is a tough one, because a lot of times you're tempted to, you know, take the money or pay the money and get the link. Or how do you feel? How do you deal with that? And how do you suggest you kind of interact with them? Let's assume there's 2 sides to this, right? That they're asking for it, and you want to avoid paying, and they're asking for it, and you're willing to pay, but you want to make sure you don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah. Okay, so my opinion on those kind of sites is not to kind of give them money and pay for these posts. Now, it's kind of easy for me to say that because I'm not in a position where I actually want to build these links for a certain website, whichever website you're working on. So as you can say, it can be tempting to kind of hand over money and just buy the link. So the issue that I think that we've got with this is that if they're accepting links from people that are willing to pay them for links, then they're accepting links effectively from anyone. Their like barrier to entry is money. So the issue that you've got as a recipient of these kind of links is that you may end up on a website, with a link on a website rather, that also links to all sorts of nonsense and all sorts of crap, basically, which is not going to be good from an SEO perspective. So just to kind of try and answer your questions, if they're asking for money and you don't want to give them money, well, there's a couple of options. You can either just move on, which is what I do. I just completely blacklist the site. I'd put it in a spreadsheet somewhere and make sure never to contact them again. Because if they want money, that's what they want. Forget about them. Again, some industries kind of are quite heavy on this. They really want money, finance and stuff like that. Finance industry, rather. You'll find that nearly everyone asks for money. It's just a nightmare game, really. But if you don't want to give them money and you think that the site's still legit and you think that they're just kind of doing this because everyone else is doing it, you can kind of just try and follow up and bargain with them, or just say, you know, look, I'm only a small business and I don't really have the money to pay for this. We're just looking to try and get some publicity. The problem with that is it just takes time, so it depends how much time you want to spend on it. But if you've got the money, if you want to buy the links, well, you kind of can buy the links. It's just I wouldn't recommend buying the links for the reason that I kind of said before. as well as the fact that it can just be expensive. And I don't think that any of those kind of paid links usually are that great. You'll be better off spending the time to just pursue more websites. But if you want to be safe with doing it, then basically just don't buy the links, because we know for a fact that Google doesn't want you to buy links. They've said that a million times. So I'd say that that's quite risky. So I wouldn't be doing that personally. So yeah.
Yeah, what I would say, just to kind of add to that, is I actually am pretty close friends with a lot of black hat SEOs from the back in the
Yeah.
day, and I would say that they're one of the comments that I remember from a couple years back was that ultimately it's just not worth it anymore. A lot of
Yeah.
them went more kind of gray white hat because it just wasn't worth it anymore. And I think that the one thing that I've found that has really gotten a lot of people in trouble is, even when they've gone through a lot to protect themselves, what ends up happening is people who sell links, they end up getting somebody who bought that link who ends up getting a penalty, and they do a disclosure and they say, yeah, I bought a link from that website. And you might not find yourself necessarily penalized, but you're definitely going to find that site that's linking out no longer passes any authority, and that link becomes
Yeah.
worthless. And so you paid for something that you have to be concerned might go away. So in general, I would agree with you that it's just not worth it. It's much better to just move on and have a sense of comfort in life, and not have to worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you?
Sometimes, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, sometimes you might get lucky, and there might be like, you might buy a link that moves the needle, and it might move it for a significantly decent period of time that makes it all worth it. But I'd say that in general, the odds are against you with buying links. It's 9 times out of 10, get a link on a rubbish website that's not going to move the needle. Maybe it won't get you penalized or anything like that. In fact, it probably won't. But it's a waste of money. Just pursue. I'd rather get one good link on for free on a really good website than 10 kind of spammy paid links on like mediocre guest post kind of factory kind of websites.
I'd also just comment, on a different side of this that kind of goes into that, is that even with organic links, I would really challenge anybody that's listening to really consider the quality of the site you're getting links to. Being really close to a lot of the search engines, we know that there's an effort to go towards authorship again. We know that there's an effort to kind of battle fake news and a lot of this kind of really thin, questionable content. And so there is a sense of looking at where your author profile and where you're getting links and where you're actually publishing content. So as you're going out and doing any of this, I would really avoid some of the lower quality sites as far as trying to get links from, especially if you're just going to go get an unlinked mention, if it's a bad low quality site, maybe it's better that it's not
Yeah.
an actual link, so just something to consider. Another question for you, what about putting up a blog on a platform like Medium? And I'm going to assume, since we're talking about link building, they're saying, what about going out and doing like LinkedIn blog publishing, going out and making a Medium blog, going out and getting a Flipboard, and then trying to utilize some of these publishing opportunities as a way of linking back to your content?
Yeah. I think that's kind of like a kind of reasonably old kind of tactic now. I think a lot of those sites these days kind of just give you no follow links. It's not something that I do a lot of, actually. Medium, maybe it gives you a followed link, and same with Flipboard. But I think in general, those kind of, what they kind of say, Web 2.0 sites or whatever they call them, they tend to be no followed links in my experience, and more sites are kind of doing that if they weren't doing it before. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I wouldn't do that kind of stuff personally just for links. Maybe it's a good idea to have a Medium blog for some certain reason. I think Tim Solo's got a Medium blog with Ahrefs, where he just kind of posts about the things that he doesn't want to put on the Ahrefs blog that are kind of semi-related. So there's a legitimate reason for having that in that particular scenario. But I wouldn't go ahead and make a Medium blog just to get one of those backlinks, because the backlinks, even if they're followed, they're usually quite weak, because the blogs that you create or the kind of profiles that you create on those sites are so deep in the site that they're basically worthless. And then, you can do kind of black hat stuff with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess my answer is that the links are usually not worth that much. But if it makes sense to have those profiles or to set up a Medium blog or do whatever, and the link's just a nice little extra, then that's kind of fine. But I wouldn't expect those links to kind of shift the needle a lot, especially if you're trying to rank for anything reasonably, even a tiny bit competitive. They're not gonna move the needle, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's more into the spec of content marketing in general. Content marketing on some of these sites gets you exposure, which then gets you links back to yourself or to your, to your properties or to your content. It gives you exposure as a brand. Just like getting to the front page of Reddit, it's not going to give you a value as far as a link, but it's going to give you the exposure to potentially get more links, more,
Yeah.
opportunities and so forth. So that's how I like to look at it.
Yeah.
How do you balance ideas for your blog versus your outreach? You might be limited to how many ideas that you really have. Some are really good. You want to make sure you're getting a link. How do you balance, the ideas between the two? Where do you put them?
Well, it depends how much you're blogging. If you're writing 5 posts a week, then you're never going to be able to do outreach for all of those 5 posts. And I'd even say that at a push, you're probably not even going to be able to do one a week. So really, you just want to. I mean, at the HRS blog, most of the stuff that we're publishing we're publishing quite a few blog posts, but we kind of try and maintain the quality with all of them. But we don't do outreach for like all of those posts. We kind of just do outreach when for kind of posts that we really think are the best posts that we post on the blog. So that's kind of what I'd recommend to anyone, because the thing is, if you're posting a post every week or 2 weeks and you do outreach for every single one of those posts, and they're all closely related topically, you're going to end up reaching out to the same people and asking them to link just over and over again. So if you're doing that really regularly, you're just going to annoy people. So you really just want to reach out when you've got something special to share with someone, and reach out to the people that actually, make sense to reach out to.
So I think in this case, the question's more about like guest blogging instead of outreach. That's
Okay.
me kind of reading it maybe a little bit wrong. But when you're doing guest posts, let's say you can't come, you have 10 ideas, right? Do
Yeah.
you give one good one for your blog, one good one for your outreach? Do you keep your best stuff for your blog and kind of your not so great stuff for outreach? How do you kind of balance keeping the quality in the best place?
Well, there's no reason you can't kind of tackle the same idea or the same topic with a post on your own blog and a post on another blog and even another blog. As long as you're not rewriting the exact same thing and just giving it out to everyone, which is kind of what I covered earlier with the guest posting kind of 3-step kind of process where you take a post and you kind of splinter it up into different subtopics, and then you can kind of just change the perspective on the idea and just alter it slightly to adjust it to a different audience. So say if you come up with a great idea for a blog post and you're kind of thinking, well, I don't really want to give that away as a blog post because that's such a good idea that I want to put it on my own blog. Well, put it on your own blog. Write a amazing guide on your own blog, a really lengthy and brilliant guide, and then you've already done all the research at that point. You know that topic like like the back of your hand at that point. So you can then just write some guest posts for other websites that are along the same lines as what you've written, just not an exact copy of what you've written. And that actually just speeds the guest posting process up, and you kind of kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, and if you're getting links on something that's authoritative, like let's say you get a link on like, one of these big business sites or something like that, and you can do a blog post that says, I wrote this article on Forbes,
Yeah.
and here's some highlights, go check out the article on Forbes. You actually get an opportunity to kind of brag about your exposure and how important, your concepts are that they're published on these great places. So in some regards, you can, do a blog post about your article and still be successful with that.
Yeah, I suppose the other thing with that is that, say if you've written a post for your own website, you decide to publish it on your own blog. Maybe it's like the ultimate guide to link building that you publish on your own blog, and you talk about guest posting and link building strategies and link building tools. Well, if you write a guest post basically by splintering that post that you put on your own blog, and you write, say, a guest post about link building and link building tools on a different blog, you just link back to the kind of master post on your own blog from those guest posts, and you'll kind of boost that and enable that to rank, and then you can kind of, more people see it, more people link to it, and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. As Ahrefs has updated its link reporting, some of those old links seem to not count as much now. Are there some that you think are less worth the time of pursuing? For example, like say when classified is in the URL?
Well, I guess it depends why classified is kind of in the URL. Like, uh, if it, I don't know. It really depends just on the like on a case by case basis with that. I don't think there's any kind of footprint that would kind of identify a bad link. I mean, if there's like forum in the URL or something like that, then you can bet that it's a forum that the link's going to come from. So in that case, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a no-followed link and it's going to be quite low value. So I kind of, unless you just want links fast and you want to just pad out your link profile, I kind of wouldn't pursue those as a priority. But I don't know particularly about like classified in the URL, what that might indicate for the site that you kind of get in the link from. But I'd imagine if classified's in the URL, it's kind of like some kind of listing like like Craigslist kind of website where it's like just I don't know.
So let's evolve on that. Do you think that, and this is a question that gets asked a lot every year, each year that passes, forum links, classified links, directory links, are they even worth getting anymore?
I'd say the same thing that I said about like the Medium blogs and all that kind of stuff there, which is that if you think a link on a certain directory or a certain forum is likely to send traffic via that link to your website, then it's probably a decent link to just go ahead and get. Not really because it's a link, but rather because, well, it is because it's a link, but you're not looking at the SEO value of that. It's more that, the whole point of SEO in the first place is to get people to your website. You're doing SEO so that you rank higher and that more people click basically the link to your website within Google. Well, if someone's likely to click the link to your website on a forum, if you can put it there, or a classified, if you put it there and it's relevant, well, that basically is just SEO because a forum is a search engine effectively. You've got a question, you go to a forum, you type in, what's the best link building strategy, you come across a thread and there's a link in there to like the Ahrefs blog. Well, it's just a search engine. It's just a different form of search engine optimization. As for whether the links from those posts, those types of links are really valuable from a traditional SEO standpoint, meaning that they're going to boost your Google rankings, not really, I don't think, because most of them are no-followed, most of them are low value, but they're good. Every natural link profile is going to have some of those links, so you may as well get some. Otherwise, the guest post links that you may build and the unlinked mentions that you build and the broken links that you build, all these really, high authority in the broad sense of things, the high authority links, they're just going to look unnatural if you've only got those links pointing to your website. So really, I'd say forum links and things like that, they're just better for kind of what kind of generally referred to as like padding links, which is just meaning making your link profile look more natural. But it is natural if you just go after them for the reason that they exist in the first place anyway, which is just to share whatever you've got with that community and get referral traffic.
Interesting question here. I'm curious to see what your answer is. When you think about the value of unlinked mentions, let's say you have a site that already has hundreds or even thousands of referring domains. Do you think you'll actually see a lift from this strategy?
Well, I'd say that if you've got tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of referring domains, then you must be a reasonably big brand because most websites don't have that many referring domains and backlinks. So to me, that would indicate that a lot of people are going to be talking about you in real life and online. And if people are talking about you online, a certain percentage of those people are going to forget to link to you or purposely, not link to you or make a misspelling or something or other. So basically, it scales kind of percentage-wise as you just grow. If you've got 10,000 referring domains, then maybe you've got 100 people a month kind of mentioning you. If you've got 100,000 referring domains, then you're a bigger brand. Maybe there's a few thousand people mentioning you every month. So the more people that are mentioning you, the more unlinked mentions there are, so the more opportunities that you can pursue. And because unlinked mentions, they convert quite well usually because really you're just saying, hey, you've already mentioned me, can you just make it clickable? It's quite a small ask and it's quite a reasonable ask, so the conversion rate's quite high because they like you anyway. So really, all that happens is you get a high conversion rate on a higher number of prospects. So you're able to build even more links. The bigger the brand you're working with, the more links you're able to build from those kind of strategies.
Awesome. How do you balance the link diversity? Like there's a company. Hold on, I just want to read this before I start
Okay.
naming companies.
Yeah.
Here, let me read this other one and I'll come back to this. What KPIs are most impacted by implementing these backlink strategies? Is there a clearly defined ROI? How can you, basically they're looking to set up a system and set up a scale and set up a process. What kind of things should they be looking for from an ROI standpoint to kind of tell them they're doing the right thing or and so forth?
Well, I guess, the most obvious one is just more traffic from search engines, so more traffic from Google, basically. The graph that I kind of showed right at the beginning of the presentation, which showed like traffic via versus referring domains. So basically, the more referring domains that you've got to a web page, generally the more traffic it gets from a search engine. So the KPI is going to be more traffic. I guess you can also look at rankings. If you're trying to rank for a specific keyword, and that's why, or a specific topic, with related keywords and all that kind of stuff. You can look at kind of where you're ranking if you're building links. The problem with that kind of thing is that it's quite difficult to directly tie that to links, because sometimes, a lot of the links that you're going to build are probably going to have a kind of what's the word, like a delay before you see any effects from them. So it's difficult to attribute a particular success to a particular link or a particular strategy or something like that. So I'd say that basically, if you're doing this over a period of time and that traffic's increasing to your website from organic search, then it's having a positive effect along with your other SEO efforts. And like I say, most of the kind of, I'm sure we've done a study on this before where it's kind of most pages that get traffic actually do have links. So it is a correlation, but I'd say that it's pretty certain that you kind of need links to rank for anything worthwhile and therefore get organic traffic. So again, I guess I'm just coming back to traffic as kind of the key KPI.
How many, a lot of people want to know, so if I send, 20 requests for guest blogging, how many should I expect to go through? Like what's the ratio in your mind, if you had to guess, at how much I should benchmark my outreach efforts to, expecting results?
Yeah, okay, so it's difficult to say because all of the industries do vary, but I guess people kind of just want like a definitive answer. So I'd say 20% will respond and maybe 10% will actually go through. In general, like that's generally speaking kind of on the whole. The thing is, it all depends on the industry that you're in and the amount of effort and the amount of personalization that you've got for these outreach emails. If you send out 1,000 outreach emails that just say, hi, can I guest post on your website? Well, maybe 1% of people are going to actually return that email because it's crap. But if you, send a couple of hundred words to someone that like says, saw that you did this, I really like this post, and it's genuine, you say, what's the, I don't know, you make some kind of connection with them, they're going to be more likely to respond, build up that relationship, and you might get, you can easily go 50% plus kind of response rates and placement rates. But I'd say that, from the stuff I've done before that's been kind of not at massive scale, but, sending a few hundred kind of pictures at once, you seem to generally get around 20% reply rate, I think, if you're not doing anything too extreme with the personalization, and also you're not at the extreme other end of the spectrum, which is no, really rubbish emails. I just put that as a rough ballpark figure, but I don't want people to kind of go out and do this and then get 17% response rate and then just come after me. I'm just kind of saying, generally speaking.
So the other question I had was essentially about network linking. Like, let's say you have a umbrella company, and then you have a company that's a part of that umbrella company, and they're linking back and forth to each other. It's reciprocal linking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that effective? Does that work at all? Is that a good strategy?
I don't think it's going to have much an effect, either positive or negative. Because the thing is, it's like, how many umbrella companies have you got? Must be one or two. Even the most huge brands have probably only got 10 sub kind of companies within an umbrella kind of organization. So really, you can only link back and forth between 10 or so websites. And the companies that companies that have got that kind of size and own that many websites and have that many different brands, they're going to be attracting links like crazy anyway, just kind of naturally because they're so huge. So I don't think you making that kind of reciprocal effort between your sites is going to have any kind of noticeable effect on anything that you can see. And I'd also say that if you're really doing that strategically, then it's just a waste of time and probably not a good idea either. If you're, writing 10 blog posts a week on 10 different websites and interlinking all of them, well, that's just craziness, really. Put your effort into something a bit more worthwhile, I'd say.
Awesome. Well, we're out of time. I have a number of additional questions I'm going to copy out and shoot over to you in an email, and
Yep.
we'll see if we can't get some quick answers from those to include into the blog post. Otherwise, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining. I hope that the information was beneficial to you and you learned some new things. I know I did. Josh, I really appreciate you joining us, sharing
No
this
worries.
information, and thanks again for everything.
Okay, cool. See you later.
Thanks, guys.